the RPG Maker General Podcast, brought to you in part by a good night's sleep. Welcome to the RPG Maker General Podcast, or the rpgmg, your one-stop shop for everything RPG Maker. This is Marpix, aka Cody. With me today are some returning friends and foes, like Karbonic.
Hey, it's me, Karbonic! What's up, ho?
Hey, it's me, Karbonic. Hello. I'm back.
Alright. We also have my co-star from Defeat the Darkness, Adam.
Hello.
And after a long absence of a full 2 episodes, our friend, Sam Windsor.
Yeah, why did you announce me last? Are you ashamed of me? Are you trying to hide me away?
Sam.
No.
We're all ashamed of you in our own
we all
special
fucking
way.
Alright, well, gents, ladies and gents, if you're tuning in for the first time, all you need to know about me is that I really love RPG Maker, and more than that, I really love talking about RPG Maker. It's the only thing on the planet I enjoy talking about, so that's something you can look forward to a lot of from me, Windsor.
Wait, you're British. Don't you talk about polo or something?
No, not me. No, most of them do, but I have to shut them up. I have to place my hand over their mouth so I can tell them about the Yanfleet plugins.
Alright, well, at least he's honest.
Wonderful. So in keeping with last week's tradition, we're going to keep our format here. There's a little bit of news. Most of it's related to RPGs in general. So first off, who's excited about Pokemon Sun and Moon?
Oh boy, I can't wait to
Fucking collect that shit again. No,
Yeah.
I'm not really excited at all.
No, I'm not gonna.
I haven't been excited for Pokemon since I was in grade school, so I'm going to say no.
Yowza.
I like to think I'm speaking for all of us when I say Pokemon is for fucking children and you're an idiot if you play those games.
Well,
No,
I
I wouldn't go that far.
Yeah, I wouldn't go that far. That's a little harsh.
Generally speaking, I like to make it clear that my views are my own and they do not represent those of the RPG Maker podcast.
You
But
literally
in this
just said you're
instance,
speaking for all of us.
in this instance, I'd like to make it very clear that we personally hate every person who likes Pokemon.
I can't really say that because one of them is going to be my wife soon, so I can't really say I hate Pokemon. And
Man,
people
fuck
play
your
it.
wife.
Yeah, fuck your wife, man.
I don't
let me
think he
watch.
needs to be encouraged.
A gentleman does not explain himself.
What's that one joke about, like, Pokemon and say, I don't know, Pikachu? Fucking shit.
Oh, dude, like, if you look through the Pokemon anime, there's a couple episodes where Pokemon S&M takes on a whole new meaning.
Yeah, there was
yeah.
this one episode where they're crawling through a bunch of vines, and nothing really happened to Brock and Ash, but I remember, like, only Misty, she got cut up a bunch by the thorns.
I
And it's
remember
sort of-
that.
Oh.
I
It's like
might,
sexy cut, like ow.
I might
yeah.
be getting this confused with someone else. But where like there was a Miltank, except it wasn't actually a Miltank. It was like a human girl dressed as a Miltank, and she was kind of tied up and like she started off she was wearing a little outfit, but then the outfit got removed, and then she started getting shagged by like a Rhydon. I don't know if that was an official
I
episode.
don't
That
know if
might
that
have been a
actually
fan
happened.
animation.
Yeah, I was gonna say
Yeah.
that.
But I remember
Jeez.
it very vividly, and I enjoyed it very much.
Speaking of fan-made Pokemon stuff, how about Pokemon Abridged, guys? Like, I don't like Pokemon, but that's some funny shit.
I haven't seen it.
I'm not core
Oh
enough.
God, you guys are missing out.
I don't watch the internet.
I'll post the best episode up in the
Oh.
chat later, but that'll be after this.
All
Go on,
right.
man.
Yeah.
I hope
Cody,
you enjoy
I think-
posting it.
I think, like, the difference between Pokemon and, say, Digimon is that Pokemon is a lot like Dragon Warrior, where it does its best to stay the same each and every time. So you
Yeah.
have us who, at 10 years old, really liked Pokemon and grew up with it. You watched Ash's adventures with his cute girl and his other companion sidekick person. And that's basically the same formula, 25 years later. And, I mean, why break it? It's good for little kids, but then you move on to edgier things like Digimon.
Yeah, Digimon I like a lot more than Pokemon because Digimon is actually about stuff.
Yeah.
Like, things happen in Digimon. Nothing really happens in Pokemon. Like, every single episode of Pokemon is they go to a new place, they learn a lesson, there's a really drawn-out Pokemon battle, and then they move on.
You forgot the
Team
cute
Rocket-
girl. There's always a
Then
cute girl.
Team Rocket shows up, they grab Ash, and they finger him. Yeah.
Jeez.
Rinse and
Boys.
repeat, man.
Much as I agree and much as I enjoy talking about these, animated cartoons, these aren't RPGs, and I'm afraid we're straying a bit off topic, which, I can't allow.
All right.
So I'm gonna steer us back. Did you guys hear they're making a Legends of the Hidden Temple movie?
Fuck yes. I am so excited for that shit.
Like, how does that work?
It's
It's a
care.
game show.
Don't understand. Legends of the Hidden Temple is coming back. This in no way is a bad thing.
I mean,
Is
I do
that
understand
the thing where
that.
they had to crawl through the temple as a game show?
Yeah,
Yes.
it was
Super-
frustrating because you had the top down view of the little maze, but they couldn't see shit. They had no idea where they were going. But as a kid, you're like, why don't you just go fucking that way? But no, I listened to a bunch of interviews because I fucking love Legends of the Hidden Temple. That was my life growing up. That and that Pokemon animation that apparently was not officially licensed by Nintendo.
But apparently, the people who didn't like Legends of the Hidden Temple were the kids actually on Legends of the Hidden Temple because it sounds like it scarred them for life.
Yeah.
I remember reading that there was apparently one person, one little girl in one of the episodes who, during the temple run at the end, was in the big ball pit, and she was so stressed out she actually threw up.
Wow.
And you could see where they edit because they had to stop, clean it up, and then let her go back and run it.
How young was she though?
Oh, I don't know. It's typical age for kids on Legend of the Hidden Temple. That's
8 to 12.
8 to 12, yeah. I would say certainly a little bit older than 8, probably. I can't imagine letting an 8-year-old run through this.
Moving on to hopefully something more RPG Maker related. So there's a game called Stardew Valley that seems to have gained a lot of traction on V. And it looks to me like a Harvest Moon style game. And apparently the mechanics are basically the same. You have your seasons, your waifus, and all this other stuff. Have any of you guys played it?
I'm not.
It's actually, the twist is that after a while you just you go fucking insane and you kill everyone.
That sounds cool.
That's the big twist. It's Harvest Moon, but it's also a murder simulator.
Are you
Cody, I
being
have a
serious
question.
right now?
No, I'm not. I haven't.
Okay, because I was thinking we might have had to cut that because you just kind of announced the big twist to an audience of over 100 people. I hope over 100. How do we do?
Roughly.
Are we good? Is this a good podcast? I can never tell.
It's getting better all the time.
Mm-hmm.
Just who sang that one song by the Beatles? I don't know.
The Beatles did.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure the Beatles sang all of the songs by the Beatles.
No, I mean specifically which Beatle.
John.
Yeah, it's probably John or Paul.
think
They
it was
only
John.
let Ringo and George sing once in a while after they finish their veggies.
Me and my mate were actually just talking about the Beatles. Sergeant... back in the day, back in the 60s, the Beatles were basically regarded as One Direction. They were... Yeah, they were just heavily marketed towards young women, and older male audiences hated them. And then come Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band, they were basically the biggest band in the world, and they told their producers, okay, we're done making the shitty pop music you want us to make. We're going to make the kind of music we want to make, and if you don't want it, we'll go to another record label and make them millions of dollars. Yeah. And that's when they started getting really, actually, original with their, with their sound.
Yeah,
yes.
I definitely think that's the turning point where they stopped kind of being really shitty, and I mean, they weren't super shitty, but where they start to actually become the Beatles people like.
Yeah, much less we wouldn't remember them at all if it wasn't for their latest stuff. And some of the Hey Jude is great, and that was one of their earliest albums, but no one would even, they would have just faded into obscurity so many. Some people would look back on them the same way guys like us look back on NSYNC and the Backstreet Boys as that weird thing that happened at the start of the 2000s.
Yeah. Back in 2005, I actually went to England, and we stopped by Liverpool to go check out the Beatles Museum, and I do seem to remember their later druggier phase I seem to remember it a little more clearly. Like, I think they played that up just a little bit more than the, black and white, we're all wearing the same haircut and the same suit, sort of. You know what I mean?
So have you guys seen this image of John Lennon, and he's walking like this?
Yep. Yeah, I've seen it.
Okay. Not that we can really see that on the podcast, but he looks like he's having trouble with something in his pants.
Yeah, it's
too big.
Most likely you've probably seen it, the listener. It's this picture of John Lennon. He's walking towards the camera. He's got this weird fucking look on his face, and
Drugs!
his arms are in like weird positions, and his legs are. Fuck.
Oh, I know where he's going. He's going to where the Ministry of Silly Walks is.
It looks like he just got off his horse, Pilgrim.
So, back to talking about RPGs, because apparently this is an RPG show, I think?
Well, we talked about Powerpuff Girls and Marvel last time, but yeah, let's get back on track here.
So, apparently, Final Fantasy IX has been remade for the PC and is now on sale on Steam. Guys, what are your thoughts?
My mate Joey really likes that game, so I might buy it because he thinks it's good. That's all I can tell you about Final Fantasy IX. My mate Joey really digs it.
I think it's really, really cool because, if I remember correctly, only Final Fantasy VII and 8 got PC releases back in the day. So for FF9, they had to basically rewrite it from scratch and then bring it forward to make it compatible with computers.
Yeah, shit, I could have done that.
Have you guys seen that one thing on Steam? It's a Final Fantasy game, but it's like super fucking awful because it's basically the phone port of it.
And all the bravest. Yeah.
That was 6. Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
And that is so sad too, because it looks like basic Unity assets and tiles that they lump together because the overworld is 2D, but the towns are 3D and the colors don't match. There's actually a huge community effort right now to make the sprites look better because they look so washed out, and they have this filter on them that makes them look even worse.
Yeah, I'm looking at it. It's got this. I think it's supposed to be sprite filter, but what it more looks like is like they resized the sprites with anti-aliasing on, rather than like in a proper filter.
Yeah, it's super lazy, and I think that's really sad because FF6 is a good game, but when you give it that kind of presentation, it doesn't look like a good game. That's like if you send Joe Satriani to the state fair and then you make him play a ukulele. It's like, no, he's a legendary guitarist. This isn't what he's meant to be doing.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, this UI is terrible. I'm looking at it like the just the GUI, I guess it's called, or whatever, the HUD.
It looks good to me.
It looks like a stock asset from RPG Maker, which isn't that bad of a thing, but when it comes to Final Fantasy, usually you expect a bit more.
Yeah.
Okay, let's get back on topic. Final Fantasy IX.
Yeah, I love it a lot. In fact, I actually got to play it a little bit last night. I have a PS1 copy, so I played it on my PS3. And damn, it's a game I really, really need to play again. And just like all the way through.
Yeah.
Yeah, I gotta do that every couple years for the good ones.
Yeah.
I'm looking at Phantasy Star Online and then also the Final Fantasy Legend games. Like, yeah, I should get back on those again.
Yeah.
I do that with Banjo-Kazooie. Every couple of years, I just play through the whole fucking game.
I love Banjo-Kazooie. It was like that was. Did you know Banjo-Kazooie was the third video game I ever owned?
I didn't know that. No.
It was literally the first video game I got after getting my Nintendo 64 because when I got it, it came with Super Mario 64 and Star Fox 64.
Ah,
so,
cool.
yeah, it holds a special place in my heart.
What was
That's
your?
Yeah, go on.
What was your first video game in general? Like,
okay, the first video game I ever owned or the first video game I ever played?
ever played or something?
Okay.
I don't know, your introduction to the thing.
Well, I am an old man, coming on 28 years now this August. So, my first game that I actually remember playing and remembering what it is was the original Star Fox. For the Super Nintendo. Because my cousin next door had a Super Nintendo, and I would always run off to his house to go play it, even though he was at least 5 years older than me and was tired of my shit all the time.
Nice. My first video game, I can't remember if I went to an arcade and played pinball or played arcade games first, but I remember my dad bought someone's NES console, and it had the Super Mario Brothers Duck Hunt combination. So that was my first official foray into video gaming. It was so exciting, too. It also came with a Hogan's Alley, which was a standalone disc where you, like, shot people, like, police simulator style, like, you shoot the bad guys, but you don't shoot the good guys kind of thing.
Oh, yeah.
We've grown up a lot since.
Yes, we have. So, apparently there was some sort of, like, actual discussion that we wanted to have regarding this podcast instead of just talking about news and reminiscing on back in the good old days.
Yeah, but we still need to get Carbon Windsor's first game.
Okay.
Yeah, it's true, man.
Go
I've
right
got a good
ahead.
story for mine as well.
If you insist. I mean, I've heard some of your stories already, and frankly, some of them terrify me. Go
this
right
sounds
ahead.
great. Okay, this one involves pregnancy, but only a little bit. Because
Okay.
when my mom was in the hospital giving birth to me, she had a Game Boy because my dad ran a store franchise called Game Station, which was kind of a big thing back. This was before like game trading retailers were really a big deal. Like I think his was one of the first, and it got pretty big. And then Game bought it, and Game's owned by GameStop now.
Yo, dog, I heard you like games, so we got games inside of your games inside of your games along with your games.
Thank you for that interruption.
You're
Anyway,
welcome!
hey, my dad had a Game Boy, and he let her borrow this Game Boy, and she had Tetris and Dr. Mario and Legend of Zelda: Link's Awakening. And she liked Link's Awakening because she didn't know there was any fighting in it, because she never found the sword. She thought it was just about walking around and talking to people, and she thought that was nice. But yeah, that's the first ever game I ever played.
Nice.
That's it. That's the whole story. Someone say something, for God's sake. Don't leave us all in silence.
My story, I guess. My first game, because I was really fucking late to video games. I was the kind of kid who kind of played outside until I was 10 years old, when my life was ruined forever by, this was, I think, in 2001, the game for the Game Boy Advance. That was my first thing.
Holy
enough.
cow.
Wow.
Was the game based off the Disney Atlantis movie. It is such a piece of shit. But
it gave you the sickness.
Yeah, it gave me the sickness, and I had such a late introduction to games that by then there were so many games that had come out. But I guess my first real game, because I had a Game Boy Advance at that time, was Pokemon Emerald, I think. So, for whatever that's worth.
I love how we all just got done saying that we don't like Pokemon, but my first game was Pokemon.
My first real game, I guess.
Alright, Cody, do you have one?
I already talked about it. Super Mario Brothers Duck Hunt.
That's right.
Let's go back in time. Into the time machine, Morty! Attack! We have to go now, Morty! Explain to Adam what's going on! Alright. Anyways, moving on here. So this is normally the project progress part where you talk about what you're doing with your game. This is also a time where if you weren't in a previous podcast but wanted to answer one of the questions from that podcast, you can.
Oh yeah, no, it's been a while since I touched RPG Maker. I'm busy with other shit, man. I've been talking to girls. Like that's where the real fun lies. Forget creating, man. Getting laid is where it's at.
Why create when you can procreate?
Yes.
Perfect. Okay, so I'll start really quick. So Defeat the Darkness, episode 19. So I split the arena arc into two parts. That was a decision I did later in the process for making the arena arc, so I have a lot of that footage ready. I just need to figure out where I'm going to end episode 18 and start episode 19. And as I talked about a cast or two ago, there's a town that I didn't have in the original script that I need to implement because I decided to make some characterization a little bit deeper for my character and Milia, who is one of the people that is like inside the video game and finally realizes that is her reality, is that she's in a video game.
Basically, if you're listening to this podcast but you haven't watched Defeat the Darkness yet, you should slap yourself.
Yes.
And I'm not just saying that because I work on Defeat the Darkness.
Yeah, but anyhow, in episode 17, she and I get in a bit of a fight, and instead of her basically sleeping it off and forgiving me, I want it to be a little bit more thoughtful than that, because if I were in that situation, I think there would be more questions, more things to resolve than just, oh, okay, I guess you're not an asshole, moving on. No, I don't. Yeah. I don't think just moving on would be a proper way to end her characterization. So
right.
That's where I'm at right now.
It's not what grown-ups do.
So,
Real
speaking of
big
Defeat the
girls.
Darkness, so speaking of Defeat the Darkness, literally just today while I was at work, one of the benefits of my job is that I have a lot of time to think, and I have a lot of time to brainstorm other ideas, and I'm starting to brainstorm ideas for the next season of Defeat the Darkness, because this one's almost over. And let's just say things are gonna get cray-cray.
I like that you use the word cray-cray instead of just saying crazy, because I feel like that really lends weight to how cray-cray things are gonna get.
Well, I want to sound cool for you kids,
Yeah, well,
you should be really cray-cray. You should be really cray-cray and move on to a different RPG maker.
I have every bell and whistle for VX Ace. I swear up and down on my life the next one will be in VX Ace.
I had to ask him that before I started really brainstorming. I was like, so are we using the same engine? Are we going to update, or I don't know.
You people.
All right. So isn't there another question that you wanted to ask all of us, kind of like a roundtable question that we wanted to do?
Once we get word from Karbonic about what he's up to.
All right.
Yeah.
Just making sure we're all on track. It's hard for us.
Okay, so basically, Dashboard has been coming along pretty fine. I just added a little bit of a spooky part in the middle there. It's not actually scary or anything. I don't know how to actually do horror, but it could scare the weak of heart. But yeah, it's pushing forward. I'd say expect a May release date, if anything. So yeah.
Karbonic, I have a question. Like, how old are you?
I'm not gonna say.
He's like 18 and he's got a published game on Steam. I've got like 5 years life experience on him. You guys have like 10 years. And we're doing shit with ourselves compared to this guy. He's gonna make money off a video game that he made.
Now,
I think you guys really need to step it up.
Yeah.
Come on, step it up.
What the fuck, Cody? What are you up to? Jesus. But real quick for you, Carb. You said that Dashboard is looking to have a May release date, and it just recently got greenlit on Steam. So how much of your game do you need to have done to get it on Steam and through the greenlighting process?
Oh, like how much do you need before it can get greenlit?
Yeah.
Not much at all, just enough to show a trailer, really. But I would suggest, if any of you out there are planning on releasing on Greenlight, I would suggest kind of having something done, not posting just your shitty beta thing, like a tech demo or anything. Don't do that. You're actually going to want something that's descriptive of the final product, which I had because I've been developing Dashboard for, I think, about a year and a half now, and that's when I felt comfortable with putting it on Greenlight. But I would not suggest just throwing your first ideas up there and actually have your project at least, I'd say, 75% of the way there before you put it on there. But there's no requirement. There's no actual requirement from Steam.
Okay, so it's kind of like how I handled Voice Acting Alliance, where, hey, I've got this thing about 95% complete, now it's time to bring in voice actors so I don't waste any of your time.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, because that was one thing, is like, I wanted to make sure I had as much of it done as I humanly could so that when the voice actors came on, they wouldn't be waiting, 5 years for the lines to get used, because we started working on it in late 2012, and then we only started taking auditions in mid-2014. So there was this year and a half where, okay, I want to make sure that I have it ready to go before we get anyone else involved.
Yeah. Although I do have to be a bit careful with what I say in public, because Valve's got a big non-disclosure agreement looming over my head about certain things. But I can talk about the Steam greenlight process, just not anything that comes after.
Okay, that's totally fair.
Okay.
Yeah, I just wanted to get a little preview into that, any aspiring devs. So the long story short is, have a solid concept, get a demo out, and once you get to the demo stage and you have a plan to complete it, then you should probably think about greenlight.
Actually, about that, I would say more... Yeah, actually, no, that's a good point. That's a good thing. I thought I was confused for a second because I thought you meant a tech demo. Just so you people out there know, there's a big difference between a public demo and a tech demo. Basically, a public demo is what you're ready. Basically, something that looks exactly like it's going to be when it's released, that you're willing to let the public play to get an idea of your game. Whereas a tech demo probably has like MS Paint, quickly drawn graphics, just so you can set up maps and stuff and get your ideas of how things work. Don't put that on Steam Greenlight. Okay. Anyways, moving on, I guess. Right, unless you have anything else.
I think that'll do. And thank you. So I will not put my first VX Ace project up on Greenlight. You have officially dissuaded me from putting any more newbie garbage up on there.
Have you already?
No, but I'm assuming there's tons of newbie garbage on there already.
What I will say is that you'll notice this about projects, and this is just another reason to have sort of something done before you put it up there. You'll see in the greenlit section things that were greenlit 2 years ago and haven't been put on Steam. Ooh. That are just because they made something that looked pretty, but that's all they made. And they just kind of made something that was all presentation, and they put it up, and people saw it, and they thought it looked cool, so they voted for it. But then it was so early on in development that the dev just abandoned it after a while.
Sounds like Kickstarter, except you don't get to run away with any money.
Yeah, you actually will lose $100 rather than gaining thousands.
All right, well, let's transition here to the topic at hand then.
Alrighty.
So today's theme is aesthetics. Basically, what type of art style and setting do you like when you play your RPGs or your games in general? And how important are those different aspects? And for me personally, I had to do a lot of thinking about this. And having original art is good. It doesn't have to be great original art, but making sure it's original is what's important.
And making sure it's yours is probably a good thing, too.
Yeah.
Because that's something that does, unfortunately, happen sometimes, especially recently.
Yeah. Anyway, something that it took me a while to realize was really important, but it really, really is. I think music is one of the most important parts of not just RPGs, but any game in general. Like,
I agree.
Yeah, like Amnesia: The Dark Descent. The game itself is mediocre. I played it a bit and I didn't enjoy it, but the sound design is excellent. There's always ambient noise, there's always something you're listening for. And when you play an RPG, there's always... If it has a memorable theme, then I will remember it, and it'll be one of my favorite games of all time, for sure.
Yeah. I would definitely agree. That's most good RPGs tend to have really, really good music. I can't really think of any RPGs that even have bland music. All the all-time great RPGs, all the Final Fantasies, and stuff like that, they all have really, really well-done music that worms into your brain and will not get out.
I think we interrupted Windsor like 3 times.
Well, I made a game once and I put some songs in it. Man, it's 2 a.m. over here. What do you want from me? That's all I've got, man. That's it.
Just go hop into a kangaroo's pouch and curl up and go to sleep. It's fine. It's fine, dude. I understand.
You'll have a lot of fun down under.
I'm coming from the land down under.
just curl up with some jelly rolls and Vegemite and like I don't know.
Foster's.
Yeah.
Oh, that's too much. That's too good.
But Windsor, I did play your game, Jack and Joey Get It Together, and I did appreciate how, even though you used copyrighted music, you still knew how to pick songs that would accentuate the mood you were trying to convey. And every single scene and every single battle had its own theme, pretty much.
Yeah, like, if I could make music, I'd probably be really good at it, because, like, I'm good at, like, tones and shit, like, detecting what kind of tone I want for my areas. That's one thing I'm actually good at, and I'm not actually good at much. I say I'm good at lots, but if I'm being candid, I'm actually a bit shit at almost everything. But that was one thing I was actually really, really good at. But I don't know how to make music, so that skill is useless to me unless I can get the money to, like, license the rights to I Touch Myself by the Divinals and fucking and the Undertale soundtrack. If I can just fucking pay to... I don't know how much he charged. Probably lots, because he probably doesn't want people using his music in other games. But if I could just pay him off, like, an absorbent amount and just use his soundtrack in my game, which is much worse, I'd be fucking rolling in it.
Undertale 2, Electric Boogaloo.
Yes.
Undertale 2, don't turn the game back on. Because apparently that's what they want you to do at the end of Undertale.
I mean, I did Genocide first run because fuck the skeletons. I fucking hate... Fuck those people. I did it to be contrarian because I don't like it when people tell me what to do, and I don't like the fact that Toby Fox wants me to play the game the way he wants me to play it. I'm gonna play it the way I want to play it. Fuck you. I just shat all over my keyboard. I stopped it after 2 hours of shitting on the keyboard. That's how I play Undertale. That's how I play Undertale. And I completed the Genocide run by doing that.
If you do Genocide first, you can't get the true ending, though. Ever.
No, because to unlock, like, the realist ending, you have to do, like, Pacifist, then Genocide. So, technically, Genocide is the canon ultimate ending.
So, Carb, what do you like in your RPGs? Is the music important? The graphics? Like...
The music is very important, and so is the graphics for me. I really like dirty styles. Like, have you guys ever seen the Metal Slug games?
Yes.
Yes.
Because those are some of the highest forms of sprite work, I think.
That's true.
Yeah, I can't really think of another game that has sprites that move that well. Like, they look really good for sprites.
They're insane. So by aesthetics, are we talking about what certain aesthetics we like, or are we talking about which parts of aesthetics we like?
You see, I'm not an art critic, so I couldn't tell you. So just like, you know, maybe.
Oh, I was just gonna say thematically, I really like the idea of kind of fantasy stuff mixed with sci-fi, sort of in the way that Final Fantasy does things in a way. Do you know what I mean?
Oh.
Yeah.
Because there's mechs and stuff, but it's also kind of that high fantasy setting.
Yeah, so where's your line on that? Do you prefer the FF1 through 5 style of it's fantasy, but we have a couple ancient science fiction elements, or do you prefer something like FF6 and 7 where magic exists, but technology currently exists alongside it?
That's a hard decision because I kind of like both. Because they're completely different styles in a way. I really remember a lot about 3's style, kind of with the mechs. That was the one with them, right? I haven't played in a while.
Are we talking US 3 or are we talking Japanese 3?
I'm pretty
US,
sure it means, US 3.
Okay, so that's really
that
6.
mix.
Okay.
Oh, okay. That's 6. US 3.
Yeah, no, we think it's confusing too, don't worry.
I definitely like the style of that, but I can definitely say I also like stuff like 7, where it's cityscapes and stuff and cyberpunk with fantasy involved. I do really like cyberpunk stuff, and this doesn't show up much in RPGs, but I really like that 80s style that really neon retro 80s style.
Yeah. Like
Hotline
Kung
Miami.
Fury.
Or
Yeah, stuff like those. Music-wise, I kind of like hip-hop beats.
Also like the
Not-
Persona?
Yeah, in a way. This is just kind of musical preference, and I love it when games also have it. Just hip-hop beats, though, not hip-hop. I don't enjoy the lyrics or the actual rapping part. It's more just the music behind it.
So, to name a specific example, would you say that possibly a game that you feel did that very well was maybe Dingling's Lisa?
I would. Have you played Lisa?
Yeah, actually, I've touched Lisa. I think most of us who do the podcast, we've mentioned it a couple of times on the podcast. In fact.
Oh, okay. I didn't realize.
We
that.
all think quite highly of Lisa.
I definitely like it. I wouldn't say it's really hard hip hop type stuff though. I do really like the soundtrack, but also games with weird soundtracks, kind of in the vein of Off or Lisa. Anyways, I've been talking for a really long time, so
I got something. So when it comes to graphics, honestly, I don't really find graphics to be that important. Yeah, I think on a technical level, the game should try and look impressive, but it's not. I don't really think that a game has to have a certain art style to appeal to me. But in terms of sound, good sound design in a game, I don't. When it's good, you shouldn't notice it. When it's bad, it really sticks out. And the game that really sticks out to me is having really bad sound design. It's a good game, but Age of Mythology has probably some of the worst sounds I've ever heard in a video game. If you just go to YouTube and look up the intro for Age of Mythology, you'll see what I mean. I'm going to post it in the chat if you guys want to look it up. Probably not right this second, but
okay.
It's so bad. Like, this game, you look at the visuals, and it's supposed to sound big and epic and huge, and gods are fighting, and monsters are battling each other with swords and spears, and when you hear the sounds they make, it sounds like some idiot standing behind a microphone with two forks and, like, scraping them together. Tell me you don't hear that when you watch this intro.
Okay, I'll listen to it in a bit.
Okay, so
He's
we're
got his swords. He's walking backwards. I don't want to watch this. This is boring. Let's do a podcast instead. Let's talk about RPG Maker.
All right. So anyway,
the sword does sound like a fork.
I know, right?
It sounds like tink tink.
Yeah, it's so bad.
Oh wow. Yeah, this is just like.
If you
really
want to follow
stock
along
sound
at
effects.
home, look up the Age of Mythology intro on YouTube and tell us what you think in the comments below.
It's shit.
Okay, let's move on.
Yeah.
What was
So but you see what I mean?
Yeah.
If it's good, it should be seamless. If it's bad, it's so distracting. Like,
Yeah.
I love Age of Mythology. It's a good game, but wow. I think whoever they got to do the sound design was paid too much.
Yeah, I didn't actually touch on graphics too much, but something that I do like is when I do like old school graphics, and it's not just because I grew up with them, it's not just because I have rose-tinted glasses, it's also because every developer that had to work with a limited palette understood the palette and made every color matter. And so when you look at, say, like Phantasy Star 2 through 4 for the Sega Genesis, they only had 64 colors or 256 colors or something small like that. So you have blue water, and then you have green and red enemies, or orange enemies. And then when you look at NES, you have Castlevania, and the main dude is like purple and orange, and nothing else in the castle is like that. They maximized everything's visual appeal. And something else that stuck out for me is in Final Fantasy VI, or 3 for you Americans.
We're Americans, except for Windsor, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not. I'm apparently Australian.
Yeah.
Toss that.
But go on YouTube and look up the opera scene for Final Fantasy VI. What really stuck out for me is the orchestra, the background, the crowd. Basically, everything that isn't a character is some degree of brown and red. And they, just using those simple colors and a few shades, stand out from every other character so much and so well. And that reminds me of, like, the Dick Tracy movie starring Warren Beatty back in the early 90s. You know, all the colors stand out. Everything is deliberate and all of it matters. And that kind of thought really gives me an aesthetic boner, basically.
It is very impressive. And it still astounds me that of all the Final Fantasy games, I don't necessarily think it's the best or it's my favorite, but I think 6 has probably held up the best, I think.
Is that American 6 or
that's
or
there is no American 6. When I say 6, I mean 3.
Okay.
For America.
So wait, what was the deal with that? Did they just skip over 2 or something?
Well, what happened is Final Fantasy 1 got released in Japan and in the US, but for whatever reason, Final Fantasies 2, 3, and 5 only got released in Japan and never saw release in the US. So when Final Fantasy 4 came out, well, there wasn't a 2 or a 3, so they just said, oh, it's Final Fantasy 2. You know, same thing with Final Fantasy 6. Oh, we can't call it Final Fantasy 6 because there's no 5. So, or 4, or 3, or whatever. So let's just call it 3. And then when they got to Final Fantasy 7, they're like, okay, screw this, we're not doing this anymore, this is a pain in the ass, so let's just call it what it is.
Oh. So have those been, have the ones that weren't released, have they been localized? Or
Yes.
Have they...
Yes,
okay,
they have.
Good.
Definitely.
Each and every one has been since, yes.
Sweet. That's good.
Yeah.
So wait, what was the... do you guys know the reasoning behind that?
Money, dear boy. Like, I can only imagine how difficult it was to translate a very text-heavy game back in those days.
Yeah, a lot of words.
Yeah, so the other thing is, back around that time, there were a lot of RPGs coming over. So you had the Final Fantasy Legend series that came out for Game Boy. They wanted to have all 3 of those coming over. They had Secret of Mana. You know, Squaresoft they were just cranking them out, man. And
I also feel like they had to do the ones that they felt like would probably be the most successful in the West.
Yeah.
Because looking at 2, 3, and 5, they're a little silly. You know, they're maybe a little too Japanese.
Yeah, and the other thing too is like, the people in the Western end, they were waiting for these RPGs to get translated, so they had to make other games in the meantime. Like Secret of Evermore was made by a Western team because they had nothing else better to do while they waited for other things to get translated. Yeah, so anyhow, if you could take one person and have them help you make your dream game, who would it be? And that could be like a programmer, an artist, a guy who made a game you really like.
Ding-a-ling. I'm just saying ding-a-ling right now.
So you don't have to do shit if you got Ding-a-ling. Just get him to make a game and slap your name on it when it's done.
But I'd love to work with him. He seems like he's a fun guy.
Yeah, honestly, me too. I'd say Dennis Hooper though. Actually, let me just Google that, make sure I got that right.
The problem is a lot of the what was it called? Industry people don't seem the most pleasant to work with. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, did you hear about Notch? He came out as a Gamergate. I think he was joking, but it's really hard to tell. On Twitter earlier, he went, I don't know why so many SJWs follow me. I've clearly been a GGer since day one, just afraid to speak out. Please unfollow. I think he's so rich, and he has just all the power in the world.
He doesn't need to fucking give a shit about anything.
He can do whatever the fuck he likes for fun, and This
is the second time in a row this podcast has talked about Gamergate.
But, you know, we're keeping it mature, though. Like, we know what it is.
We're not squabbling.
Yeah, we just kind of accept that it's there, and we move on. And, like with Notch, based on what I saw of him a couple months ago, like, he's rich. And because he is unfathomably, like, Scrooge McDuck tier rich, he's having a lot of trouble connecting with normal people. And I think that as he has remained rich and has left those issues unresolved, he's become probably a little more antisocial and a little bit more jaded. And And those types of people, when they aren't part of the real world, they start to think they're above the real world. You know, like those old people.
Kanye West. Excuse me. What?
Yeah, or like those old people that watch Fox News all day and think they can solve everything, you know? Like,
Notch is basically days away from climbing onto his roof in his underwear with a rifle and taking shots at people just to see if he can get away with it.
Well, speaking of the industry, someone who is probably...
Oh, no, he's from Sweden, though, isn't he? They don't allow guns there.
No.
That's true.
So, speaking of the industry, probably my most favorite game creator of all time, who recently has been screwed over by certain people in the industry, Kojima, is probably the person I would get to help me with a game.
solid choice.
To be honest, he was kind of the guy I was thinking who I may not be pleasant to work with. I'm not sure about this, but he definitely seems to be the kind of guy who he's the idea guy, and when I say the idea guy, I mean he's the idea guy, and there's no other ideas that make it in.
There shall be no idea guy above him. He is the alpha and omega idea guy.
Yeah.
Well, Del Toro really likes working with him. Guillermo del Toro.
Yeah.
Oh, are you guys looking forward to not Silent Hill? Because I am.
Yes! Fucking yes, I am.
Yeah. That's going to be pretty cool. Oh, how about we... Have all of you guys answered the questions?
I have not. I've been nice and patient. I have an answer and a half, basically. I really want to become a better writer, and the way to do that would be to work with a really good writer. And I have two directions for this. If I wanted to become a really good writer, I would want Amy Hennig from the Legacy of Kain series, working alongside me. Because everything she touches, instantly becomes 50% better. I don't know if you guys have seen any of the funny edits on 4chan, but basically, you can turn any situation, after a visit to the thesaurus later, it becomes the Legacy of Kain scenario. And I love that. You could say, I'm going to the store to get milk, but if you're going to Legacy of Kain that, it would be like, this thirst has parched me for too long. I shall seek refuge in the grocery outlet and find myself the milk of a bovine.
Fine.
Yes.
Yeah. No, interestingly enough, you know what else Amy Hennig has worked on that is probably as far from Legacy of Kain as you can get? She is really, really well known for Uncharted. So it sounds like she can do deep Shakespearean, why doth this happen to me? And also to do really funny Nathan Drake-isms.
Nice.
Very,
Which everybody
very
loves.
Oh, whoa! Yeah. Speaking of Notch, he just posted an Ask Me Anything on V.
Oh shit!
Yes.
Well, here we go. All
yeah.
right.
I'll just put a little thing in the thing. Don't go there yet. But you still have this
we got a
work on.
podcast to do. We gotta fucking pay attention.
Let's flip this question around real quick. Which dev would you not want to work with?
I want to get my other half answer out.
Oh, sorry.
Okay.
So if I trusted myself to be a good writer and make the whole rest of the game, I would need a good musician. And I have two choices for that. And because I am a big fan of cheesy, over-the-top, power metal. And there are two bands that come to mind. Camelot with a K and Dragon Force.
Ooh.
And
a game with Dragon Force music would give you a seizure.
I know. Yeah, so with how varied and skilled Camelot is, I could see them giving me really nice somber themes and ambient music, and also a pretty cool battle theme. But if I wanted the most epic boss fight music ever, I would have to ask Dragon Force.
Yeah.
And that would make my game super amazing, no matter who I got for that. Oh man. Okay. Anyway.
Well, I better do my answers as well, unless you just want to move on. But I don't mind answering this question. Have you guys ever seen the Texas Chainsaw Massacre?
A long time ago.
My Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2 is my favorite film after The Princess Bride, and tied with Hellraiser 1. Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2 is my favorite film of all time, and some people hate it. Because
Texas Chainsaw Massacre and Princess Bride are pretty far apart.
No, dude, you're missing on the subtext. You're missing on the subtle subtext.
They're
of
really
both
the same
movies.
movie, obviously.
No,
Princess...
they're in the same timeline. I have a full map on my wall where I've connected the dots.
You boys, you're ruining my answer.
Oh.
Okay, Princess Bride is the undisputable greatest film of all time. It's just objectively the greatest film of all time. I don't even... If you're typing out a little YouTube... If you're typing up a storm going, no, there's films that are better than that, I want you to delete it, because it's undisputable that Princess Bride is the greatest film of all time. But my second favorite films are Hellraiser, created by Clive Barker, who's already made games which are of mixed quality, so I don't know about him, and Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2, which has the most unbelievable atmosphere. Like, the sound design is so good, but also it knows when to use silence to an incredibly effective degree, which films nowadays just don't do. Like, there was these periods with no sound at all, and it is the most unsettling thing in the world. And it has this great, like, kind of relevant sense of humor that even to this day, like 40 years later, is still kind of biting. I want Toby Hooper, the creator of the Texas Chainsaw Massacre franchise, to help me make a video game.
Nice.
Because atmosphere like that has never been created before or since, and I want to see what he could make in, like, an interactive genre. And if I'm getting someone to do the soundtrack, I want the Prodigy. Like, no, I'm not splitting any hairs. I want the fucking Prodigy to score my game. Maybe not this game, because it wouldn't really be thematically appropriate, but for a different game, I want the Prodigy. I'm a 5-star, sir.
I think that'd be a pretty good soundtrack right there.
Fucking right? Yeah.
Just entirely made out of that. So what would you guys not want to work with? Who or whatever?
Ooh.
The real question there is, especially with modern teams and how large they are the decisions in games the team's fault or the executive's fault? And there was this one woman named Hepler, I forgot her first name, but she became really infamous because she worked on the sequels to Dragon Age and Mass Effect. And
right.
I don't know how much of that was her fault and how much of it was, EA saying that, certain things had to be certain ways. So I'm going to need a second to think about someone who I can objectively say is really bad at their job. Ooh, I know. The guys that made the War Z or Big Grig's Over the Road Racing, they both, it's the same development team, and...
Wait, really?
Yeah.
Oh,
Wow.
I didn't know that. Wow, they have a really good portfolio of just absolute garbage.
Yeah, so the War Z was famously pulled off of Steam because it was a half-complete game, and is in fact what spurred the whole early access movement, if I remember correctly.
Yeah.
Yeah, so those people, they don't know how to release a game, so I don't think I'd want to work with them. And as far as, just on a philosophical level, I don't think I'd be able to work very well with Tim Schafer. And that's not a knock against the guy, but his style of game is not my style of game.
Yeah.
I remember playing Costume Quest and I enjoyed it, but the battle system was rather simple, and it was what I needed at the time, but usually I prefer something more complex. And the more I looked at the writing, the more I realized that a lot of the writing is about talking down to you as a character, as opposed to something that could have been a little bit more thoughtful and interesting and stand up to multiple playthroughs.
I was actually going to say Tim Schafer is my one I didn't want to work with. But this is for less kind reasons than you had. Just in light of recent ways he's been acting, I don't know if I'd want to work with him. Also, according to a lot of people on development teams, he's just not a nice person to work with.
Jeez.
He doesn't take his team seriously and kind of plows over them with his own ideas and stuff. I guess a secondary person I wouldn't want to work with, although he's kind of out of the business now, is Phil Fish.
Oh, he'll be back for Fez 2 in 2020 after we've all forgotten, I'm sure.
Can't wait.
But yeah, I wouldn't want to work with Phil Fish just because he doesn't seem like a people person. And I guess that's one of the things they don't really tell you about being a game dev is that you kind of have to be a people person, in a way.
Yeah.
Or you don't have to be, you just have to have someone to be your people person. Either that or just don't be an asshole. That's some of the best advice I can give you, is don't be an asshole when it's not needed.
I literally saved my career before it started by not having a Twitter account. You know, because by not having a Twitter account, I couldn't be stupid on Twitter and say stupid things on Twitter and have people screen cap them and bring them back 5 years later.
Yeah. The internet will remember. They are anonymous. Forgive, forget, whatever. But yeah, just don't be an asshole to your fans. That's one of the biggest things, biggest lessons you need to learn as a game developer.
Yeah.
And I don't want to bring this back to Dingaling again, but I'm a fanboy of his, so I will. Dingaling understands this because he's a nice guy. That's it.
Okay.
Well, I got one quick, and then we can move on to, I don't know what we're doing next after this topic, but my person or company that I wouldn't want to work with is that I'm not sure what they're working on right now. I'm not sure if they're still even a company now, but the company that made Ride to Hell Retribution. Holy shiest. What happened?
Everybody remembers that game, though. Why wouldn't you want to be associated with a game that everyone remembers?
Oh.
And there
isn't
a modern masterpiece.
There isn't enough breath in my body to tell you that.
But, I mean, at least with them, you know, they made, because, like, I talked about a team that made incomplete games. Like, Ride to Hell Retribution, that's kind of like Bad Rats, where you buy it for your friends on Steam as a joke. So you could still make money.
So I looked them up on them internets, and I'm looking at, apparently they were called Zeppelin Games, and then they became Merit Studios Europe, and then as Eutechnics, which is what they're called. I'm looking at their history, and out of all of these games I see on here, I don't see any that are good.
Oh, no.
It's, oh boy, it's pretty bad. How about, does anybody remember Big Mother Truckers?
Yes.
Both of those.
Wow.
Apparently,
Redneck
Windsor,
Rampage?
No. But, released in the UK, Windsor, as Big Mother Truckers 2, Truck Me Harder.
Oh, shit! Yes!
Nice.
Pimp My Ride in 2006.
The game. Holy
Yes.
shit.
Oh, okay, and here's something that makes me really sad. The newest game they just came out with is a Warhammer 40k game, and that's because Sega is literally giving the license for Warhammer 40k to everybody.
Yeah. But wait, who made the, I was watching extra credits. They did another Games You May Not Have Tried, and it was talking about like a strategy RPG, and it was actually pretty decent. And then also a couple months ago, Adam, you were telling me about a Warhammer licensed game that's basically Left 4 Dead, but not.
Oh, yeah, that's, oh man. I know what you're talking about. I can't remember off my frontal lobe, but ever since Sega kind of got the rights to Warhammer 40k, they're kind of lending the license out to people to make games.
Notice how we're not saying whoring, we're saying lending.
Yeah, well.
We're good people.
Oh, I just thought of a new person I wouldn't want to make a game with. I think, and this might come as an insult to you guys, but maybe not the people from Extra Credits. I don't think I would want to make a game with them. Just because I get the feeling that like their hearts are in the right place, but I feel they don't know a lot about games. They do know a lot about narrative, but not games.
I have a personal thing about the Extra Credits crew, and it's not that big. It's only going to take a second, but if you all remember when they were still on The Escapist, there was that thing where Allison's arm got broken and they needed to raise money to fix her arm. And so they were going to take all the extra money that wasn't needed for her arm, because they got a whole bunch, and they were going to make a fund for making an indie game.
Yeah.
Does anyone remember that?
No. So I guess it didn't happen.
Yeah, so the money went to one of James's proteges, who was like taking a game design class, and I actually got to play a demo of the game at PAX. It was all right. You know, like it reminded me of like a lot of the later games in Newgrounds as Renaissance, where it was a platformer, but it had some philosophical stuff it was talking about. But so I played that at PAX.
Sounds like a game they would like.
Yeah, exactly. So, like, I played that at PAX. It was okay. I gave them my feedback. And then the next year I asked James, like, hey, what's going on with that game? And he's like, oh, well, it kind of fell through. And, you know, there was tens of thousands of dollars to make this game with this one-man team. And I don't know where the hell that money went or what it could have been used on.
No idea. So
Hookers.
Yes, but environmentally conscious hookers. Because remember, this is extra credits.
Yeah, hookers who are very much into long fields of text that you have to read, and I mean, I guess that's a bad thing to say on an RPG podcast, but
How dare you? You don't like narrative? What the fuck's wrong with you, man? It's a role.
No, I like narrative. I like narrative done well, and I'm just not sure if they understand how to do narrative properly in games.
All right.
Because that's all they talk about, but I'm not sure if they really have a full grasp on it.
Well, you know what? If we ever get famous enough, we can ask them.
Boys.
Yeah?
Someone posted my Jinx avatar as a reaction image in the Notch thread. This isn't newsworthy, but it really popped me.
Wait, where? How far down?
I'll just link. It's not the same picture. It's from the same manga. It's from Come On Shoot Faster, but it is a different Jinx face. I'm gonna save this one. I'm gonna save this one anyway. I might use this as an icon at some point in the future. I can't. I'm gonna save it in my
Okie dokie. So let's
Yeah. So
Get
Windsor,
back on topic.
who wouldn't you want to work with on your next game? Jack and Joey get it together too.
That's very easy. Jeffrey Dahmer, he'd probably bite my cock off while we were working on it.
Jeffrey Dahmer's fucking dead.
Yeah, I know, and I'm
You
glad
can't
he is.
choose him.
'Cause- okay,
I can
alright.
basically say I don't want to make a game with any dead person, but
yeah.
I mean, I'd rather make a game with dead Jeffrey Dahmer than fucking alive Jeffrey Dahmer, because he'd bite me in the bollocks.
Okay, now, real talk though. Like you have people like Charles Manson who are deeply intelligent and still alive. Do you think he'd be able to provide a unique perspective for your game?
Shit, actually, yeah, you're right. He'd probably make a really good game if he could keep his hands off me while we were making it. We could actually probably produce something pretty cool.
he'd probably make something along the lines of like Revenge of the Sunfish, though, where he thinks it's really good. But anyway,
But no, Charles Manson wrote a song and the Beach Boys recorded it. You've probably heard it.
yeah, I know. It's just I'm not sure how he'd be a game design.
See, I consider Jack and Joey like a reflection of myself as a person, and I think even if it was kind of incomprehensible or like low quality from a game design standpoint, I think whatever Charles Manson could produce with the help of a team of game designers would probably be like a really interesting like character study of the guy.
Yeah.
Like you'd learn something about him, and it'd be interesting to learn something about such an interesting person.
Yeah, like the Unabomber, his manifesto is freely available online. He talked a lot about how he valued close personal relationships and a tribal structure over what modern society has become. So, like, we would make a children's game. It would be like Animal Farm. He would get his message across, but we wouldn't actually have any violence in it.
Wait, Animal Crossing or Animal Farm? Because you said Animal Farm, and that's about communism. So basically your message is communism.
But no, you see, Animal Farm was repackaged into what George Orwell called a children's story. That's called being creative. You put something complex into a format that can be digested by broad ranges of people.
Wait, did Orwell release Animal Farm as a children's book?
Let me look that up. I'm 95% sure. I read it in summer school in like 7th grade.
Because that's really clever and actually adds a thing to the book that I didn't really... Because if he was making it as a children's book but had all of these undertones to it, that's a bit more clever than if he was just outright trying to make a book about communism.
Yeah, no, the whole point was communism was a very contentious subject at the time, so he had to mask it. He had to put all these layers on top of it so people would come to their own conclusion but still read the whole thing.
Yeah.
Let's see here. Yeah, it was about the British self-censorship that was going on at the time, so...
Okay.
Yeah.
By the way, have you seen have you seen Orwell's Memorial?
I have not.
It's a nice little statue and has a nice little memorial, and it has a big security department and is covered in security cameras watching your every move.
That's irony.
Yeah, but it wasn't done ironically.
The original title of Animal Farm was Animal Farm, A Fairy Story. So there you go. He was a smart motherfucker. And he didn't kill anybody.
Nice.
Alright, so I think that about wraps it up. So just real quick, if you guys have any advice for anyone when you're making games...
Back your shit up, you piece of fucking trash. You piece of garbage. Just die. If you don't back yourself up, you're gonna die. And that's what's gonna happen. Because you're a lazy piece of shit who didn't back yourself up, and you're not gonna make it to the big leagues. Do you think I want a weak son? I don't want a weak son. My son is not going to be weak. You're gonna back your shit up, and you're gonna come out of the basement when you back your shit up. But until then, you're not having dinner, you're not having food, and you're not seeing the light of day. Get the fuck down there. I will not have a weak son.
And thank you all for listening to the RPG Maker General Podcast, or the rpgmgp. This is Marpix, aka Cody, signing off.
Bye-bye.
Okay. And this is Markiplier. Bye-bye! Fuck, I used to be able to do that voice, but now I can't. Anyways, this is Karbonic. See ya.